Hi, welcome to another episode of Mind Cravings. I'm your host, Lupercio, and on here I like to talk about spirituality and self-development. While I am still new to everything spiritual, everything philosophy, I do like to share my stories and the knowledge that I've acquired throughout this journey. I want to talk about how spirituality has changed me in the range of the 6+ months that I've embarked in this journey as terms to doing things that aren't good for the soul. Maybe you'll resonate with it, maybe you won't. Maybe it'll inspire you to break bad habits. I used to be shy when I was younger, to the point where I know that I attracted about every misfortune that happened in my childhood and as a teenager. You see, because what you think you put out into the world, one way or the other, sooner or later, it's going to materialize. So when I was younger, I had a lot of issues with attention. I was a very anxious attachment child. I was the youngest of 2 siblings, and my parents being immigrant from Mexico, everybody in the house worked. I was the baby. My brother was finishing up high school. My sister was working. My mom was working. My dad was working. My brother-in-law was working. I had nobody, or at least that's what I felt. I felt like I had nobody, so I would always go to my imagination, and I would have imaginary friends, but when I would actually go to school, it was hard for me to connect with other children because I always saw them as bigger than me. I always thought there was nothing that I could connect with. I didn't have the best social skills when I was younger, and then I started developing social anxiety at a very young age. When I was in middle school, that's when bullying got a little bit tougher than elementary school, and that is what fucked me up even more in creating connections with other people. It's because of the moment that I was a child and I started developing my brain and I started to see what's right or wrong, because that's the thing. When you're below the age of 7, you're a sponge. Everything that people, your parents, your authorities tell you, your subconscious mind sucks it in so quickly that it becomes part of your personality, and you start growing up with those ideas, with that ideology. And Joe Dispenza said that by the age of 30, that's when the brain is fully developed. So everything that you were fed since you were a child till now, it's part of you. It's in your subconscious mind. It is going to be a little bit more harder to undo habits, to reprogram, versus being in your 20s like I am, which I'm really glad that I'm taking this very serious, because it's very interesting. First of all, it's very interesting, and now that I understand all this stuff, it's like I'm trying to wash away all the bad habits that I accumulated from childhood, so the rest of my adulthood is like I'm clean, I'm cleared, I have a better mindset. So when I was little, I would always think of how lonely I was, how nobody wanted me, because that's how it felt to be, basically almost like the only child in the house. And it's like your parents don't give you attention because they're literally working. You're in school for 8 hours of the day. You come home and your dad picks you up from school, and it's only an hour that you see him, and then you see him on the weekends. That's the days that you get him, but you see him in another state. You see him, he's not there emotionally, he's there physically. And then your mother and your sister, which they're your authorities, you see them working all day and you barely get to actually build a relationship with them. So then what do? They buy you things. They buy you everything you want, and you become a spoiled kid. You become a spoiled kid, so you start to think that is what it means to be loved. That's what happened to me. I'm gonna get so deep into this because I swear this has so much to do with how you grow up. Last year I began my inner child healing journey with my therapist, and we had to uncover some deep shit. From that, I've learned that the way that I was basically taught subconsciously to love people is the way that I showed love to people. And it just became very toxic, because in the end, all those people that I loved right before now, right now that I actually know what love is, and I'm talking about, love as in to a friend, to a family member, to a lover, it's so much different than when I was a child. Because when I was a child, my parents would tell me, well, we have to work. You should be grateful for the roof you have over your head, for the clothes you have these toys, you have these video games. And my sister would do the same thing. She would just buy me and buy me and buy me things. So I became a spoiled brat because I said, okay, so that means that I'm loved, so I need people to give me things. It was really hard for me to socialize with kids, to make friends. And when I would make friends, when they would give me that attention that I felt like my mother and my father and my sister and my brother never gave me, I would cling on to them. I would cling on to them because it was safe, because they would give me attention. They would give me that emotional attention I never even developed with my parents or my authorities. So I would cling on to them, and I started becoming attached. So when they would leave, all hell broke loose. I would be in the lowest vibration that could exist. I would be depressed, I would be sad, and then that's where the negative thoughts would just keep coming in. I'm lonely, nobody loves me, nobody likes me, why does the world hate me? I was making enemies in my head at such a young age. When you're young, your subconscious mind is more vulnerable. It is so much easier for you to manifest because you're in a childlike mindset, and as an adult it's like you see reality, you see how shit is, and you grow up and people tell you how fucking tough life is, but in reality it shouldn't be tough. It's just everybody shits on you growing up, rich people are evil, you gotta work hard, you gotta get a diploma. Coming from an immigrant family, I swear to God, it's a whole different thing, man. It's different. The pressure that you have on your shoulders because you know English, because you're like the first generation that's gonna go to college and all this shit, and it's like they think that's your ticket to a better life. They think that all their sacrifices is just for you to do that. And sometimes you're like me, you appreciate that, of course, but you don't want to go to college. You don't want to fall into the system of getting the perfect comfortable job and living like a slave in this simulation. All right, and you actually find out that you're good at something and you become an entrepreneur off of that thing that you're good at, but your parents are so programmed to, you have to work hard to get money, you have to bust your ass to get everything you want, and they don't believe in an easy way out. Now, I'm not saying life is easy, but I'm just saying when you are spiritual and you understand life for what it is, and you understand that really you could change your mindset and your life from just changing your thoughts, everything just becomes more clear and more effortless to approach. Back to my childhood. So obviously I was fed all that shit, all that negativity at a young age. I basically was already fed so much shit about life and about human beings, how people are bad, that I basically attracted every fucking relationship and friendship, every encounter that has left me scarred as an adult. I did it. It is my responsibility. You see how I didn't say it's my fault or it's not anybody's fault? No, it's no one's fault. It's simply my responsibility. And I was not aware of it, and that's okay. But now as an adult, I am aware of it. I'm so aware of it that now I am very detached from people. But I have 3 friends. Through me changing a lot and everything, they stayed solid with me, and I appreciate them. And I've lost a lot of friends on the way. I've lost a lot of people, and when I say that I'm detached, I don't mean that I meet someone and it's like I'm nonchalant. I meet people and I just go with the flow. Whatever is meant to happen between us to develop. If it's that we're literally just gonna hang out for one day and that's it, never gonna see them again. That's happened a few times with me. Or it's like, okay, we're gonna become friends and boom, platonic friendship that actually lasts. Or maybe we're gonna try to approach a romantic relationship and then it doesn't work. Whatever. I don't care anymore. I'm at the point where it's I don't even care about what happens. It's I'm just gonna be there in their energy until however long they have to be in my life and however long I have to be in their life, right? Because everybody comes in your life for a reason. Even if they do stay a long time, it's always for a reason. They're either soulmates and friends, lovers, whatever, or they're just there to teach you something. Sometimes you kind of don't really realize what they're trying to teach you until later on or at the moment. But back then I would cling on to people because of that reason, because I grew up thinking my parents don't love me. When you're a child, you either develop a secure attachment, which I think that's really rare, or you're avoidant or anxious. I was anxious. And back to how my authorities would buy me things, I thought that's how love was supposed to be expressed. So you know what I would do? I would have friends I would make friends. I started becoming a little bit more social, and I would have friends. We've been middle class, so I guess you could say that I went to like the most ghettoest elementary and middle school in town, where it's like, you know, people like me go, like Mexicans and like kind of like middle class poor people, if we're using labels, of course, respectfully. Some of the friends that I had, like I would invite them over to my house. You know, I remember that I had this one friend that she would always say that I was rich. And I remember I went to her house, and it's so funny because honestly, like, we both lived in like the same roof. You know, we were both middle class. I guess the only difference was that I had a bunch of toys and a lot of clothes and everything because, like I said, everybody in my family was an adult. They were all working, so they would just like spoil me like that because I guess that was easy for them to replace the attention that I needed and wanted from them, replace it with items, with physical things. And it's so funny because now that I'm an adult, I seriously am so detached from physical items in a way that I feel like it's hard to understand. I don't really have a dream car anymore. I don't really dream for like a designer purse or anything. Like, I love dressing up, don't get me wrong. I love items like that, but it's not like I need it or want it anymore. It's like I want things that give me an experience now, because when I was little, I basically felt like I had everything. So it's like, why do I want more physical things now when I've seen that when I was younger, like people would use that to show me love in replacement of actually giving me an experience or creating memories with me. I value memories so much more now. I value time with people and energy with people more than things because of how I grew up. And those same friends that would call me rich and stuff, I let them step over me. And like I said, it was my responsibility, but I was a child. How did I know? But that did make me grow, and it made me develop. And now as an adult, like, I see that, and it changed me. So when I was younger, we would go to the store and my mom would give me like $20 or something, and instead of me having my little piggy bank and saving up for, like, I don't know, I guess once I'm like a teenager and I can start going out and buying food or whatever, I would waste it on my friends. The same way that my authorities taught me to love, I started to show that same love to people. And what happened? They took advantage of me. It wasn't the right way to show love, and they hurt me. I would spoil them in the same way that I would be spoiled to show them that I love them. And it was never enough because they always took advantage of me. Because that was the only way that I felt loved. Because I was taught that that's how love is. When they would betray me, when they would leave me, when they would just have enough with me, the negative thoughts would come again. I'm alone, nobody loves me, nobody likes me, I have no friends, nobody cares about me, everybody uses me. The cause was the subconscious beliefs that were drilled into my head, which, like I said, it's nobody's fault. It's not my parents' fault. It's not my fault. It's just that's how my fate happened. I was born into that circumstance where it's like, okay, you have everything, but you don't have your parents' love, so they're gonna replace it with items, and then you begin to do that to other people. Then the effect was like having bad friends that would just cause me to think negative and just repeat the cycle, because then I would put out into the universe all of these negative thoughts, and then it would reflect back. Until high school, I got a little bit better and I started to develop a little bit more, just because I was in a deep depression my freshman year, and like that was like the lowest point I've hit. I decided to try to get my shit together. I didn't have access to therapy. When you're Hispanic, you don't believe in that stuff. You don't believe in mental illness. You don't believe in anxiety or depression. You don't believe in therapists. Out of that consciousness of being nothing when I was something, but I didn't know, because my whole life I've been in fight or flight. My whole life I victimized myself and I blamed the world, and I've caused such misfortune around me because I wasn't loved the way that I wish. So then I grew up thinking the whole fucking world is my enemy. And like I said, I'm not blaming my parents. I'm so glad that I was raised that way, because that made me into who I am now. Basically, what I'm trying to demonstrate is how your childhood literally shapes you as an adult. So COVID-19 like really changed all of us, right? But when I was 18, like I spent my senior year behind a computer, and then I was in a dual program for cosmetology, which is funny because that was actually because of my mother and my sister. They pressured me into that, and I was dating a ex-boyfriend from middle school. So it was a very life-changing year because being around that boyfriend changed me a lot. He was a repetition of my first one. He was toxic towards the end, and I made some poor choices. I was sure of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a photographer. And that saved me. That saved me from a depression, because then I started to explore who I was. And then when I was already a senior, I was like, okay, you know, I had it for the longest time that I was gonna go to a art school. But then I was like, well, let me just go to community college and either do the cliche of being a nurse or... And it was a very tricky year because everything was just all over the place. And right after graduation, I felt like a lot of things shifted. My anxiety was still very present. That I was very, very immature and I needed a lot of growing to do. But I never had proper teaching of what exactly I'm supposed to do with life, because my whole life I've been caged. My whole life I've been told, do not go out, do not do this. Do you understand? Ever since I was a child, I have been flooded with negativity. My parents have caged me. My parents have put so much fear into me. That's why I am so proud of who I am right now, because all of those fucking experiences literally made me into who I am right now. I'm fearless. I'm not scared anymore, and I am free. When back then I was caged by their fear. Don't go out because this will happen. Don't do this because of this. And I always seeked freedom. I always seeked freedom after COVID-19, that we literally all had to be stuck in here for months. That changed me because I already felt like that right before COVID-19. I wasn't the typical kid that could go out to the quinceañeras, that could go out with their friends. No, I was always caged. And even now as an adult, I don't really go out a lot. You will not see me at a club. You will not see me at a bar. When I visit New York, yeah, I go out because it's different. But like here in town, there's like really not much to do. And I'm just not that type of person. I've tried to be that person. I try to be the party girl and, you know, the one that drinks every Saturday. But that's just not me, because that's not what resonates with me. And it's really interesting because a lot changed in that year. I thought I was mature. Don't we all? We're 18. We can do whatever the fuck we want, right? And then I turned 19 and I started community college. I started going for sonography. So I did all my basics, and then I got a job, my first real job at Walgreens. And I started to take my photography more serious. I spent like a year working at Walgreens, and it really boosted my confidence because I finally got to like socialize. I became a better salesperson. I started getting more booked in my photography. And I felt like I started growing up because now I had like responsibilities. So like, you know, it's like I have to go to school, I have to do my homework, I have to go to the gym because I had a gym membership. So I started like working on myself in every aspect. I have to go to therapy, you know, I have to go to work. And like, it felt so good to make my own money because now it's like, cool, like I can buy my sneakers, I can buy my clothes, like whatever. I don't have to ask my parents for shit because I grew up spoiled. But then I wanted independence. I've always been independent because I was always so isolated that I felt like I had to be independent. So at 19, it was really good that I had like my own job and then my side hustle, because it made me realize that that's the type of person that I am, that I like to work for my stuff. Because my parents would always spoil me, but I'm like, no, like we're not gonna do that anymore. I finally started living my life how it should. I stopped listening to people that I have to be a fucking nurse, that I have to do this, that I have to do that. And now it's like, fuck it, dude. Right now, I am the manifestation of finally living your destiny and doing what you fucking want, because you only live once. And what the hell are you doing living your life for other people? I've seen that around me. My mother is proof of how when you live for someone else, you are unhappy. Back to when I was 19. I began my self-discovery journey. And it's so funny because I've actually made quite the friends that were like into like spirituality, and I never really realized. I always turned a blind eye to it. It was just the start, but it's like I have a friend that tells me it just wasn't your time. It wasn't your time, because now that I remember them, now that I remember the stuff they would talk to me about, it's like, dude, I get it now. The chakras, the meditation, the law of attraction, like what? How did I miss it? It wasn't my time. So then I quit my job. I started to pursue my photography because I was like, dude, it's going well. I'm starting to like do bigger gigs because that's when I purchased my video camera and I started doing video. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna take that leap. And then after that, there was a couple of times that I would get a little scared, so I would like go back to a 9 to 5. I can confidently say that this year is the first year that I have been on this all fucking year without falling back to a 9 to 5. Like, all year I've been working for myself, but the whole year I've been walking with faith. I've been walking with like, dude, you know what? I have my own business. Money is going to be coming in because God is my infinite supply. Everything that I lived through when I was a child was how I began to live my life. That's why I had such bad friends. That's why I had these toxic boyfriends. That's why everything was just so bad for me. Like, that's why everything is just so bad for me, you know? And it's crazy because it just made me reflect so much. Inner child work is so necessary when you're trying to heal and you're trying to like develop yourself into who you want to be, and also like shadow work. And while I was doing inner child, like I was also doing shadow work, and it was really tough because I was technically already doing that with my therapist, but it is very much necessary. I forgot how the quote went, but it was something about how like spiritual people are light and dark. They're not just light because they know how to face their shadows and they can stand up to them. And that was beautiful because that's true. When you're spiritual, that doesn't mean that all the fucking time you're glowing, you're fucking vibrating in the highest frequency, you're manifesting everything. It's just that you no longer let your shadows overpower you. You tame them. You look at them in the eye and you say, I'm not scared. I'm not gonna move. You stand still and you step over them instead of them stepping over you. That's spiritual people. We don't let our shadows dominate us anymore. We dominate the shadows of ourselves. I can confidently say that this is the last time I will ever fall into depression. I even think I healed myself from anxiety and depression. My life did like a whole 360 after I healed my inner child, after I started getting back into spirituality. For a second, it felt like I actually manifested a dream reality. Then came January. I was not the right person to hold all those manifestations. I entered the new year with who I thought was going to be the person that I would spend the rest of my life with. I entered January thinking, I fucking did it. I made so much money this year. My business is successful. I am successful. This and that. You know, I had a very nice truck. I bought my motorcycle. I've always loved sports bikes when I was younger. Like, I basically like fucking did a whole 360 of my life. Like, I went from lack to like abundant. Like, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. But then I entered the new year as the incomplete person to obtain all that. I entered the year almost with an alcoholic problem. I entered the year with fear, with lack, because I would begin to doubt my relationship with this person. This is too good to be true. And all the money that I earned that last year, what did I do with it? I was given what I wanted, but I didn't know how to keep it, how to sustain it. I didn't know how to use it properly. It's like I lost everything. I entered another depression because that person left me, because I felt like I was struggling financially, yet God didn't leave my side at all. I still had money to be able to pay the payments to my truck, to be able to eat out, to be able to pay all my subscriptions and everything involving my photography. No matter how much lack I had, how poor I felt, how broken I felt, God still had me like that. Then I decided to stop victimizing myself, stop pitying myself, stop being so full of lack and negativity. And I decided to pick up the book, How to Not Give a Fuck by Mark Mason. It changed me. It made me see that I was being a complete idiot. And because of that, I started my spiritual journey once again. And now I'm here. I started to analyze many things. I went back to therapy and I started to buy more books and like look into all that stuff on YouTube. It started becoming really entertaining. So I started to like study Neville Goddard and all that stuff. And by spring, I decided to trade my truck for a SUV, and I decided to sell my sports bike, and I decided to just be single and go celibate, because after that person left me, I kind of jumped too quickly into another relationship, and I know what I was doing. I know that I was trying to fulfill that emotion that person gave me through another person, the law of substitution. I substituted that person with another person which that person made me feel empty because I know that it wasn't authentic. And when I traded my truck, I felt better. I felt like I lifted a burden off my shoulders, because it even got to the point where I felt I don't deserve that truck. I started feeling like that so much that maybe that's why like I didn't feel good about it anymore. And I got my SUV, and I just went through like this whole life transformation again, where it's like I just want to live my life in peace. The friends that I had at the time and everything, like everybody that knew me, I didn't tell them that I traded my truck, because I felt like that was a good first step to being more private about my life, that people assume that I still have the truck, and then it's like I have an SUV now. I began to do a lot of inner work. I started to detach myself from social media, not really be in it so much, and just like post my work. Like that's it, just post my client work and like post my personal work. And it was really tough, because I was literally going through therapy, doing shadow work again. Like I was just trying to transform myself. And throughout the year, throughout this journey, I feel like from when I started to now, right now, I'm like that highest self that at the beginning of the year, I couldn't even like envision what I would be like or look like. And it just started getting so much better for me. Life started getting so much better, and even my intuition started to pop up more. Though there is a couple of times throughout the year that I now remember and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my intuition was trying to save me from this, but I didn't listen. And right now I'm pretty locked in with my intuition. Like right now, like I listen to it and it speaks very loudly to me. We all have different ways on how to read our intuition, but right now I'm doing great, man. It took me like all year to build myself that I am right now. I slowly went shorter and shorter and shorter in my hair, and I slowly started to like clean out my wardrobe, because I've always loved dressing like this, and like now like my whole closet is like clothes like this. Like I rarely have any like jeans or anything, and it feels good because it's like, dude, that's me. I slowly started to realize like who I am, like who I truly am, like authentically, like not even trying to be someone for anybody or anything. And it all had to do with just reflecting in the past, reflecting in my childhood. And that's why I lost so many people throughout the way. Because yeah, like now as an adult, like of course I don't do that shit anymore where it's like I buy people things so they love me. Now it was more like I always felt like there was something that had to be given out so I can be loved. And now as an adult, I became so comfortable with my solitude, with my own self-love, that it's like I'm okay with a couple of friends that I have, and I feel very loved when people are just reciprocating my energy. I'm a very sweetheart. Like I love that when I go out and I get like a coffee or something and they're like really nice, you know, like they bless my day and I bless theirs. Like that is like me feeling loved and me giving love back to people, even if they're strangers, versus back then when I felt like I had to bend over backwards and buy people shit so they can love me, because that's how I was programmed from a young age. And I could talk so much about my childhood. I kid you not, like my childhood, when we dissected it, me and my therapist, we found so much shit that it's like it just explains why as a teenager like this happened, why as an adult like right before right now like this happens. And you know, like I'm not perfect and I'm not fully healed. We're never fully healed. We're always healing. We're always evolving. But right now I could say confidently that I'm fucking good. Like I'm good enough that I can heal on my own, that I can figure my shit out on my own. And here and there I talk to my therapist and I'm like, hey girl, you know, like I'm doing fucking great. Like I tell her about like my discoveries of spirituality and everything, and you know, she's really proud of me. And I'm proud of myself because I took responsibility, because you cannot blame your childhood. You cannot blame anybody. You can't even blame yourself. You just have to take accountability and responsibility of the life that you were brought into and the actions you have taken, and you can change them. Because if I spent my whole like 22 years of life blaming myself or blaming my parents, like because of them I never had friends, because they didn't teach me how to make friends, they didn't teach me how to love people properly, that's why I always attracted such toxic relationships. It's like, do you not understand? I would just be in an endless loop of hell. I would be in an endless loop where I would just keep attracting all this misfortune. But until I said, I'm done, I've had enough, I want to change and I want my life to change, is when I started. Because it's like I literally commanded to the universe, I want to change, I want change. So then like, you know, came the therapy, came the books, came the knowledge, because I asked and I received. And once I started to dig deep into this, into my inner self, into this spiritual world, is when I finally am like, holy shit, we all can change. We all can. But first you have to acknowledge that you're not a victim and it's nobody's fault. Just have to take responsibility for where you are right now and know that you can change. You can't change the past. You can forgive it and take what resonated with you, take what you taught from it and use it to develop yourself further right now for the future. I got really deep into it. Like I said, I am going to get deeper in more episodes about my childhood because I know I'm not alone. I used to feel alone, but now I know I'm not. I feel like my childhood, like me talking about my childhood and like how it affected my life and how it turned me into the person that I am now, it's like something very inspiring that it might help other people resonate and just kind of like see that they're not alone and see that if I made it out of that hell, I was set out for failure. Literally everybody in my family just knew that I was going to be a failure. And look at me, I'm not. And that's because I took authority and responsibility and I said, I want to be great and I want to be the best version that I can be, like whatever God has destined for me. And now I am, and I'm still building it. And until you decide to be better and you actually start taking the steps to becoming better, your whole past is just nothing but lessons. And it's not anymore something that you can hold back onto and be like, well, because I went through this when I was a child, because I went through this when I was younger, that's why I'm like this. You cannot do that. That is not taking accountability. That is not taking any responsibility. You're just simply using it as a back wall to lay up against it and be like, well, you know what? My childhood was shit. My parents didn't love me. That's why I have issues connecting with people. That's why I don't have friends, because I don't know how to love, and I'm never going to learn how to love because I'm doomed, because that's just my destiny, because I was born to be alone. No, stop that. You have to find out who you want to be and work towards it. You don't know who you want to be? Ask God, ask the universe. Come on, man. It's all within you. The answer is always within you. And that's all I got to say today. Let's go.